Welcome to Xhibition, an Xbox podcast, episode number 43. My name is Samuel Adams, and this is a weekly show dedicated entirely to the world of Xbox to keep you in the loop on everything you need to know. So if you enjoy the show and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button on YouTube or on a podcast platform of your choice and get it delivered to you each and every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. On this week's show, we have a ton of news to dive into, including some surprise drops on Game Pass, including one of the games that I talked about last week, which is Tunic, and it's one that I actually reviewed this week. The link will be down below over on gameskinny.com, but just as a bit of a teaser, I gave it a 9 out of 10. Phenomenal game, and right now, if you haven't played it, put this podcast on pause, or better yet, throw it on in the background, head over there and start downloading Tunic on Game Pass today. It's out on cloud, console, and PC, totally worth playing. But on top of that, it's not all good news in today's episode of Xhibition, because we have some potential development issues with Perfect Dark. We see a lot of turnover from the team at the initiative right now, and on top of that, we have some bad news from Moon Studios, which seems to be having some cultural issues that we'll talk about more from a Venture Beat report. Lots to dig into on today's show, so without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. Starting things off this week, I want to kind of break tradition and talk about a couple of games that I have been playing recently. The first of which is Tunic, and that brings us to our first news story, and that is that Tunic is out now on Xbox Game Pass for console, PC, and via the cloud. This game is wonderful, and you absolutely need to play it. And I say need, and I really do mean need. When it comes to indies, this one is going to be one of the greats of 2022, but in my review over on gameskinny.com, I actually compared this game to the likes of Hades and Bastion and these other big indies that have kind of made a name for themselves within the indie world, but that also successfully made a name for indies in the larger scheme of the gaming industry. And I think that Tunic is truly one of the greats that I have ever played when it comes to indie games. Just absolutely phenomenal through and through. And of course, from the key art here, you can see the inspiration comes from The Legend of Zelda. The shield itself is basically a Hylian shield. The tunic is, of course, a callback to The Legend of Zelda. It is a classic adventure game in all of the best ways. And when I say it's classic, I really do mean that it brings classic gameplay, and that you don't really get a specific direction as to where you should go. There is no heads-up display marker telling you what direction to go in. And for me, that was a bit jarring at first, and even as I played through the game, it was continuously a bit jarring, but the notebook that is built into the game that you find pages of throughout your gameplay experience guides your experience as a player, and it lets you know what kind of level you have to be to defeat a boss. It lets you know what these items and what these abilities are actually meant to do. And it really does a good job of giving you the tools you need to successfully navigate this world without deliberately spelling everything out for you. And in a world where Far Cry and Assassin's Creed have come along and really made players a little bit spoiled, in my opinion, of navigating a game and making their way through the world, Tunic is kind of more of a hands-off experience. Here's your character, you go have fun. And that's pretty much exactly what you are meant to do. I love the world design. There are plenty of shortcuts put in literally plain sight. You just need to know where to look to make them happen in your gameplay experience. And that was something that was incredibly charming for me and a nice breath of fresh air after having played a ton of these kind of on-the-rails experiences over the course of the past few months. In short, Tunic is one you should absolutely check out. Again, I gave it a 9 out of 10 over on gameskinny.com, and it seems like my feelings for the game were pretty much in line with what just about everybody else said, because it's sitting at an 85 on Metacritic right now with 48 critic reviews, and only one of those are negative. Very, very good game. Now, I have two other games that I want to touch on briefly, the next of which is Shredders. Now, this one currently has a 66 Metascore on Metacritic with a 5.5 user score. And this is one that I'm on the fence about, because I think that for me, this one is going to be a lot like Skate, in that I never could really master that control scheme. I love Tony Hawk, and back in the day, I used to love SSX Tricky. That was my go-to game when I had a PlayStation 2. I love the arcade-style snowboarding games. What I was hoping Shredders would be is that arcade-style experience with SSX, but with more of a classic old-school, no frills, no high-octane, over-the-top energy that you get from a game like Riders Republic. I just wanted a good snowboarding game. This is a good snowboarding game, but the control scheme is a bit cumbersome because, for instance, let's just go ahead and use an Xbox controller. If you are steering with the left stick, you actually pull tricks with the right stick, and there are combos in which you'll turn both sticks to the right and you can kind of spin faster, but my brain isn't able to keep up with pulling tricks and spinning. So like if I wanted to do a tail grab backflip, that's just like, I'll probably hit it, but not well. So that's kind of my experience with Shredders so far. There are also a good bit of pop-ins and glitches and things like that, but it's also an indie game, so you have to kind of take that with a grain of salt. Right now, for me, Shredders is a game that I'm going to continue playing, but it is one that I'm going to kind of approach whenever I have the time. It's not going to be the grind that I had hoped that it would be, because I was very much so looking forward to Shredders. Not a bad game, just one that I think that I personally need more time with to really get that control scheme ingrained into my brain and to become a bigger part of the way this game kind of flows. I think it's just going to take a couple of more play sessions and some time. Unfortunately, however, I have not had any time in my gaming life because I have been playing Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, which dropped on Xbox Game Pass last week. I finally got around to playing that one towards the middle of this week, and it is absolutely wonderful. And I know that I'm late to the party on this one because it was released in October of last year, but if you have not played Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, you absolutely should. Because the gameplay is wonderful. The writing is phenomenal. The characters are wonderful. And as many people said when the game first came out, I was expecting to feel some kind of absence of Dave Bautista and the rest of the cast that makes up the Guardians of the Galaxy in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because I'm a huge fan of Chris Pratt. I thought that this version of Star-Lord would be lacking because it's not Chris Pratt. I don't miss the Guardians of the Galaxy from the cinematic universe at all. These characters and these voice actors successfully reestablish their characters in a matter of seconds. I don't even think about the movies when I'm playing this game. I adore what they have done here. And coming off of Guardians of the Galaxy, as I'm kind of winding down my playthrough, I would love to see this team get access to the Marvel Ultimate Alliance IP. To be able to take that and to give that kind of gameplay experience would be amazing. And I'll tell you why. This is not based on drop-in, drop-out co-op. This is not based on online connectivity. This is not based on any kind of collaboration. Guardians of the Galaxy successfully delivers a phenomenal single-player experience that does not take away from the way that a player experiences the game. And I think that I might be in the minority on this, but I'm going to say this anyway. I don't like it when a game locks a specific element of that game behind having someone else to play with. Or if a Guardians of the Galaxy game had come out and it had required 4 players optimally, that would have been a huge bummer for me because I can't remember the last time that I played a game with someone. And that's not for lack of people to play with, that's that I don't like playing with people. And also on top of that, I tend to play in the mornings around 5 o'clock in the morning before I go to work, because by the time I get home and go for a run, I'm pretty much out for the night, going to bed pretty dang early. In fact, it's about 9 o'clock right now and I am ready to rock. And by rock, I mean go to bed. But I play games primarily solo, and so Guardians of the Galaxy delivers a phenomenal experience without sacrificing anything, and I want more of that. And so I would love to see a Marvel Ultimate Alliance game in this vein, but again, Game Pass has been on fire recently, so you should absolutely take some time, check out this game if you have not already. Just a huge win for people that have Game Pass. And between Tunic and Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy and Shredders, it's been a wonderful 2 weeks for the Xbox Game Pass subscribers out there. totally recommend checking out those new games and additions to your library. But there are plenty of other games on the way as well, because the ID at Xbox Showcase with Twitch Gaming brought plenty of big announcements, a couple of which are appealing to me. But there is a write-up on the Xbox Wire right now talking about everything from Immortality and Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, all the way to Cursed to Golf and Escape Academy. So many other games worth mentioning here as well. One that caught my eye was WrestleQuest, which looks pretty interesting, kind of a wrestling old school RPG if you're into that kind of thing. And then we talked about some bigger games like Crusader Kings 3 and Trek to Yomi, which both look very good. I think out of everything that was shown here, Trek to Yomi is certainly the game that I have my eyes on the most. That one's coming out in spring of 2022. But not every game in this big presentation is coming to Game Pass. I think that's something that is very important to note. And that kind of brings me back to a point that I wanted to touch on regarding Tunic. And I said this last week, but Tunic didn't deserve to have its reputation tarnished or to have the conversation shift to when is the game coming to Game Pass, or is the game coming to Game Pass? Because Tunic would have still been, for me, a 9 out of 10 had it not come to Game Pass. And I don't want any game that comes out on Xbox or another platform to feel like it is less than deserving of someone's attention or someone's money just because it's not on Game Pass. And I think that risk still is justifiable. But Game Pass continues to deliver. I mean, you have tons of games coming out on the service, and it makes sense because it increases engagement, it helps spread the word, and in the same way that Rocket League took off because PlayStation Plus made it a viral sensation, you see a ton of games doing the same thing over on Game Pass and just kind of spreading the word about their existence, period. So I'm looking forward to diving into these, and again, if you do want to go back and check out the ID at Xbox Showcase, it's a couple of hours long, some good hosts, some good conversations, but totally worth diving into. But plenty of news this week. And again, to end this part of the conversation, you need to play Tunic. You really just need to play Tunic. Go play it right now. Now let's jump to a very interesting report from Video Games Chronicles' Andy Robinson, who writes that insiders are describing a fast and furious slew of exits from the Xbox Perfect Dark reboot studio, The Initiative. This is a very interesting report because normally you look at these reports and it could be that a couple of people have left, or it could be a couple of QA testers have hit the road and they found new opportunities. This seems to be something that's a bit larger. We're talking about half of the development team, including people like the game director, the design director, the lead level designer, the principal world builder, 2 senior systems designers, and a group of 3 former God of War designers, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. The initiative is now less than 50 people, Andy writes, when duplicates, former employees, and erroneous listings are removed, and currently has just 3 roles advertised on its website. Now, as the Kinda Funny Xcast reported on earlier today, there was also the Crystal Dynamics partnership that was announced a couple of weeks ago, so this is all kind of starting to add up. And for me, personally, I am in total alignment with what other people have said, in that the last few years have been pretty stressful for a variety of different reasons. But on top of that, the job market has also been kind of a buyer's market, if you will, where if you're not happy in your current role, you can find something else, especially if you have the experience and the expertise to warrant you getting picked up from another group. I know for me in my personal life, I've switched jobs during the pandemic because I found a fantastic opportunity that paid much better, and so threw my name in the hat. Here we are. We're good to go. And so if I'm doing that, then I know that people across the industry and various industries are doing that as well. And so it makes sense to me that a ton of people would be finding new opportunities, especially when you've worked at a quadruple A development studio like The Initiative, which again, I also think is a detriment to its overall reputation. But what I do want to say here is that I do not think that there's anything to worry about yet, because these departures are, from the outsider's perspective, looking in, happening relatively early in the overall development process. if this were to be something like what we saw happen with Skull and Bones, for instance, which is the new Ubisoft pirate game that has been in development hell for the past few years, if it was the same situation as that, where Perfect Dark is lining itself up to be in this development turmoil for the next decade, which again, very well could happen, I would be a bit more concerned, but there is not really any kind of sign of that happening. And this proactive establishment of a partnership with Crystal Dynamics, a team that has been on fire recently, sort of. Of course, we have the Avengers, but that's all beside the point. They fixed that a good bit. From a technology and visual standpoint, it's a good team to partner with. I think that shows that a plan has been put in place and that this game is going to see the light of day sooner rather than later. I also want to say that this is not going to be a situation that developers should be targeted and asked questions, because again, when I think about it, and it really comes down to it, I think this comes down to people having different opinions and different views and choosing to go in a different direction, which again, I think that we get lost in the news and can often forget that behind every game and behind every big name in the gaming industry that helps create these games are people. People with lives, people with homes, with kids, with wives, with husbands, with partners. There are people behind these games, and people make choices. And I think that this specific report does not spell disaster for Perfect Dark. I think it shows people making their own choices in their careers, which again is perfectly fine. I wouldn't worry about Perfect Dark just yet, but it is certainly something to keep our eye on, because this could be the first sign that something is wrong behind the scenes. So stay tuned. I'm really hoping we see more from this one at the E3 season, the big Xbox showcase, because after, a big debut last year, it's kind of getting time to show some stuff off. If I had to guess, though, and I'm just putting my bet out there right now, you won't see anything Perfect Dark related, and you will see Starfield at E3. That's just me. Moving on, we have a report from Dean Takahashi over at VentureBeat, who writes, despite its beautiful Ori games, Moon Studios is called an oppressive place to work. This is a very in-depth article that has a ton of reports in it that go into a lot of mishandling behind the scenes at Moon Studios and a really horrendous company culture, I have to say. Now, there are plenty of other reporters who have kind of distilled the core information here, but it can all kind of be boiled down to this quote-unquote no bullshit policy at the studio that effectively takes away any kind of filter that you might have in a conversation. And that effectively means that everybody from new hires to leadership can say whatever is on their mind without fear of repercussion. And on paper, that sounds good. But when you verbally abuse people and you use very insensitive terms to describe ideas or to describe people's work, that can be a lot to handle. And on top of that, their new game supposedly was going to be focused on the story of a rape survivor and her using that experience to then shape her journey. Not big on that one. Does not sound like a good idea from me personally. But that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. Again, if you want to dive into a lot of these reports, very in-depth stuff here that I'm just not comfortable talking about here on the show. But what I like about this report is that it is also doing some digging and holding every studio accountable. And I think that's something that I want to really drive home, is that we focus a lot on Ubisoft, and we focus a lot on Activision, and we focus a lot recently on PlayStation as well. And Microsoft has had their own issues in the past, which is something Phil Spencer has owned up to in recent interviews. But these big name games, or I should say these big name game developers or studios or publishers, should not be the only ones that are subject to investigation, and they're subject to the scrutiny of the community. You've got to be able to hold people accountable in the gaming industry, in the movie industry, as we saw a couple of years ago, in any industry. Accountability in creating a welcoming workplace ultimately works to create better final products and an industry that people want to work in. That's more important than it's ever been before. So I'm glad to see that Moon Studios is kind of getting some heat from this. I've also seen some responses from Moon Studios, many of which are here in the VentureBeat article, they kind of push the blame. They don't really say that anything is wrong. They say that chats within the company have been cracked down on, that things have kind of been reeled back in, but they also say that they don't want conversations within the company to be like walking on eggshells. So it seems like they're kind of ignoring a potential problem that likely should be addressed here if multiple reports are coming out that people have concerns, that people are uncomfortable. Because even if leadership doesn't perceive an issue, that doesn't mean that there isn't one there. And I think that's a big issue within Moon Studios and likely within many other studios around the industry. So ultimately, I love the Ori games. They're gorgeous. They're some of the best platformers to come out in recent memory, but accountability is key. And so I hope that the team behind the scenes continues to improve and that reports continue to see the light of day because, all voices should be heard. And I even saw a couple earlier today talking about the co-founders themselves and how difficult they were to work with on a one-to-one basis. So again, good to see conversation happening. And I wanted to bring it to your attention here on the show just to help spread the word. So again, if you have a story to share and you happen to have worked at Moon Studios, hit up Dean Takahashi or any other reporter and get this stuff out in the light because it's very important to talk about these kind of issues within the industry. Jumping over to Pure Xbox, they write that an Xbox Insider update has further complicated sharing on Xbox, and it seems like this is going to be the new situation going forward. So, in short, instead of being able to directly share to Twitter, as you can right now, it seems like you are now going to have to do a Nintendo Switch style sharing option where you upload your screenshots and your videos directly to the Xbox network, which can then be pulled down from the cloud on your device of choice, whether it be a tablet or a mobile device like a phone. That's how this is going to be done. And so you see new options here, including Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook, with others that I'm sure to come. But the issue here is that it adds an additional step that can seem cumbersome to some people. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on how you share content from your Xbox, because for me, sharing directly to Twitter has been phenomenal in the past, but already I tend to find myself uploading to the Xbox network and downloading to the Xbox mobile app. It just works better for me. And I think that one reason I do that is because I already got used to it on my Nintendo Switch as well. But I think that what a lot of people are glossing over here is that the mobile experience for Xbox players has been kind of a core part of their process ever since the setup of an Xbox Series S or a Series X, and even I think a One X as well. But being able to log into your account to directly sync your cloud data is a part of the setup process, and a mobile app is a core part of that. So I think that what this Insider update is showing and what the next full rollout will likely show is that Microsoft is focusing very heavily on making the Xbox app a larger part of the user experience when it comes to how people interact with content on the Xbox platform. So I would expect a lot more mobile to be pushed in the future. And one huge ask that I have here, and it's one that a ton of other people have brought up across various parts of the industry, and that is that we need a better clips editing system. PlayStation is blowing it out of the water, and it's time for Xbox to use that Clipchamp acquisition from Microsoft, which is a very lightweight web-based video editing software, and bring that functionality to Xbox so that I can make montages, so that I can potentially make commentaries, so that I can add various filters and whatnot onto my clips to make my content more creative. And I think sharing is a core part of today's games marketing. And so being able to effectively share a piece of content that I'm proud of and that I've customized is something that I don't think should be that big of an ask. So we'll see how it continues to evolve, but it certainly looks like traditional sharing options that we've all kind of gotten accustomed to on the Xbox platform are going to be going away very shortly. But we'll see. With this negative feedback that a lot of people are sharing, they could roll back that update and make no changes whatsoever. We'll just have to stay tuned. Xbox Cloud Gaming is a very important part of the Xbox ecosystem for 2022 from Microsoft's perspective, and that has been made abundantly clear because now Xbox Cloud Gaming supports Steam Deck through the newest Microsoft Edge beta. The quote directly from Missy Quarry, a community manager for Microsoft Edge, says, We worked closely with Valve and the Xbox Cloud Gaming team to bring support for Xbox Cloud Gaming Beta with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate through Microsoft Edge Beta for the Steam Deck. We're particularly excited about this ourselves as we feel it can open up new opportunities in the Linux gaming community, end quote. I agree, this is incredibly exciting, and we've seen other reports from Gabe Newell, who has said he is more than willing to help work with Microsoft to bring Xbox Game Pass into Steam from a platform level perspective, but there is nothing in the works as of right now. Xbox has confirmed nothing. That was more of just kicking the ball back into their court. But I totally think this Xbox Cloud Gaming feature could be a big benefit for those that might want to play some Halo Infinite on the go. You can effectively play whatever you want with this specific setup, and what I like about this is that the buttons themselves, as compared to the Nintendo Switch, are actually the same setup on the face of the Steam Deck as they are on an Xbox controller. So there's no lost in translation confusion that could be had whenever, for instance, you're playing Xbox Cloud Gaming with a PlayStation controller on the PC. Just something to consider. But with all of that being taken into consideration, I would love to see more cloud gaming support and improvements. And speaking of which, there are some we need to talk about here today, because available now on the Xbox Wire, we have performance improvements for iPhone and iPad on Xbox Cloud Gaming. Nicole Hilbert, product manager at Xbox, and Akshar Pandya, I believe I said that correctly, product manager at Xbox, right? At Xbox Cloud Gaming, we listen to and value player feedback. You asked for a better iOS experience, and as a result, we have brought major performance improvements to all supported iPhone and iPad devices. With these updates, you should have a smoother and more responsive gameplay experience. We have heard from many of you that the experience is better. Here's what we have seen so far from the improvements. Positive feedback, a significant increase in positive player feedback since implementing these changes, and higher engagement with 35% longer playtimes. We invite those with an iPhone or iPad to try our improvements and give us your feedback so we can continue to make your gaming experience the best it can be. Now, to remind you guys, the iPhone and iPad experience is not the same as Android because there is not a native application running the experience. Instead, what you have is a browser-based experience, which is pretty similar to what you're going to be getting from the Steam Deck. And so to be able to see the browser side of things continue to improve, even through Safari and through Microsoft Edge Beta, it seems like they are focusing more heavily on that as compared to the Android experience, which is also already delivering a very solid gameplay style and gameplay experience. So, what does this mean? It means that cloud is going to continue to be a major focus. On top of that, it means that the team behind the scenes is still continuing to work on ways to reduce latency and to make a better gaming experience, because I would love for me to be able to grab my iPhone and play it on the train on the way to work without any kind of fear of losing a connection. And I think that's still something that's a bit of a ways off, if I'm being totally honest. I think that we're not quite where we need to be to make this a go-to one-to-one experience that could be similar to what I get with an Xbox Series S or an Xbox Series X. But the good news is the structure is currently there. The big question for me is, how does this style of improvement play into the upcoming TV Chromecast-like stick or the application through Roku that is going to then open this up to millions of more households across the world? That's kind of my big question here. No matter how you cut it, though, from Steam Deck to iOS, they are certainly improving the cloud gaming experience, and I would expect it to get even better throughout 2022. Rounding out today's show, let's dive into some new Xbox Game Pass perks coming your way in the months of March and April. We have coming soon to Xbox Game Pass, F1 2021, Shredders, Weird West, and more. Now, available on March the 17th, we had Shredders, which we've talked about briefly earlier in the show, and the Dungeon of Nahil Book, the Amulet of Chaos. Probably massacred that name, but it's out on cloud and console right now as well. It is a challenging and epic tactical RPG. Coming out on March the 22nd to the service, we have Tainted Grail Conquest coming to console and Zero Escape, the Nunnery games. coming out on cloud, console, and PC. Then on the 24th, we have Norco coming to PC from the ID at Xbox team, available on day one with PC Game Pass, along with F1 2021 on console, coming via EA Play. And then on March 29th and 31st, respectively, you have Crusader Kings 3 and Weird West. Very cool stuff there. Notably, you also have these day one releases, Crusader Kings 3 and Weird West. So very exciting stuff here. And I think that out of all of these, Weird West is the one that I am now the most excited for. It was Shredders, but I just can't get behind it. Potentially, though, we also have some big news with the Xbox Touch controls getting added to 9 more games, including Katamari Damacy Reroll, Spelunky 2, Among Us, Undungeon, Luminous Remastered, Paparazzi, Rubber Bandits, Telling Lies, and Young Souls. But very, very, very important, we do have a free 30-day trial of Paramount Plus coming out to watch the Halo TV show. It's the newest Xbox Game Pass Ultimate perk, and if you do want to check out that show, it is going to be debuting in just a couple of weeks on March the 24th. The reviews for this are kind of mixed. You see some people complaining that it's not a direct retelling of the original games, and it kind of varies a lot from the actual games themselves and the books and the rest of the lore that's been built out. And I think that's kind of the camp that I'm going to be falling in if I had to guess. Again, I have not watched an second of this show, a minute, whatever you want to break it down to. I haven't seen anything, but I'm a big fan of the original lore. However, there are also people that are praising the experience for creating something new. So it's kind of a new take on the world of Halo, which is something that I could potentially get behind. So no matter how you cut it, be sure to redeem this if you are an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscriber who does not subscribe to Paramount Plus, like myself, so that I can dive in and check out this show, give it a shot, and I will, of course, share my thoughts right here. But again, Game Pass Ultimate is just the subscription that keeps on giving. A couple of notable departures. We have leaving March 31st, Madden NFL 20, Narita Boy, very cool game, and Shadow Warrior 2. Then leaving April the 11th, we have Destiny 2, Beyond Light, Shadowkeep, and Forsaken on PC. Some pretty big departures, but as always, I do like reminding you guys that you can save 20% if you do want to pick any of these games or expansions up before they actually leave the service. A pretty good deal. And again, dive in, check out Shadow Warrior 2. Of course, I love those Shadow Warrior games. They kind of play like Doom in a way. 2 was a little bit bloated with a lot of RPG elements, but Narita Boy, very cool little pixel-based indie that I definitely recommend checking out. That rounds out today's episode of Xhibition, an Xbox podcast. If you enjoyed the show and you like what you see and you're new here, hit that subscribe button on YouTube or on a podcast platform of your choice and get the show delivered to you each and every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. But this week, I would love to know what you're playing right now. I feel like I have not asked that question in quite some time, and I would love to hear what you're checking out on Game Pass or what games you're diving into right now. As I mentioned, for me in particular, none of the big releases for the spring season so far, aside from Shadow Warrior 3, which I have not gotten my hands on yet, have really appealed to me. So rather than playing Elden Ring like everybody else is, I'm diving into my back catalog and kind of getting through a lot of smaller experiences that might have been overlooked. Personally, I'm a big fan of playing this way, and so I'm looking forward to playing more games in the months ahead. But until next time, you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. I'll talk to you soon, and keep on playing.